Hey, number ones, welcome to Metatrons Academy. Today we are checking out the following channel. So this channel is called Life in the 1800s. We sometimes check their videos, and I really like that they go out and look and find these sort of gems of recordings of people from the 1800s and 19th century and whatnot. Well, they recently, sort of 6 months ago, posted this video. I knew the Wild West outlaw Sam Bass in the 1870s, interview in 1949. So this is someone who was clearly an adult, I imagine, in the 1870s, because he was born in 1872, so not an adult, he was a child, but still, awesome.
You're about to hear an interview of a man born in 1872 talk about how he knew the Wild West outlaw Sam Bass. The date was 1949, and a local DJ named Bill George, who is pictured here, spoke with Mr. Will Williams, a man who worked as a storekeeper his entire life in the small town of Denton, Texas. In the interview, Mr. Williams shares vivid details on what he remembered about Sam Bass, who
I wonder if he has a old school Texas accent. Man, that's getting more interesting by the minute.
who, if you're not familiar with him, was most famous for his $60,000 Union Pacific gold heist in 1877, worth about $7 million in today's money. Sam Bass originally came to Denton, Texas around 1870 and focused on the promise of a cowboy's life. He worked honest jobs such as hauling freight for the town's sheriff, tending the stables at the Lacey Hotel, and laboring in the local sawmill. But
well, it's a way to have a stable relationship, am I right?
1877, after moving to the famous gold rush town of Deadwood, South Dakota, Bass had turned to crime, leading his gang called the Black Hills Bandits in the bold Union Pacific train robbery at Big Springs, Nebraska, snatching $60,000 in gleaming gold coins, the biggest haul of its kind up to that time. Afterward, Bass used a hideout in Denton, Texas called Pilot Knob, a hill southwest of town filled with caves, where legends still whisper of buried gold hiding in one of those caves today.
Man, could you imagine that? All right, let's move to the interview.
Thank you and good afternoon. Today on Denton Story, we have as our guest Mr. Will Williams, senior partner of the Williams store, located at Court Square East. Good morning, Mr. Williams. How are you? Or good afternoon, I might say.
Thank you.
Isn't that nice? Good afternoon, I might say. So, it, as I always say in these videos, is not just a matter of accent, pronunciation, old school words, like you might hear them say a word that to us might sound archaic, but it's also the way people of this period utilize vocabulary that is common, but we don't use it the same way. And the way he used the modal verbs now, it's old school sounding. Anyways, I'm going to let him speak for the next 2 minutes, uninterrupted, and then I'll provide some commentary.
Williams, I'd like to ask you a few questions here this morning about yourself. You're an old Dentonite, aren't you?
Yes, yes.
Was you born here in Denton?
I can throw a rock to where I was born.
You can throw a rock to where you was born, huh?
Where I'm sitting now.
I might ask you to put in a little plug for your age there. When were you born here?
I was born in 72.
In 72. That's 18, isn't it?
Yes,
sir. You know, I'm thinking, I've been adding here on my fingers and toes, that's a little before my time. But you mean you were born right out, we're sitting in the back of your store, we might tell the listeners, and looking out the back window here on East Hickory Street and Austin Street. You were born right around here, huh?
I was born where the lumberyard, where the Temple lumberyard is.
Oh, over there by the lumberyard, right there where it's occupied now.
On that ground where the lumberyard is.
Well, Mr. Williams, how long have you been in business here in Denton?
Well, this store was started in July 84.
In July of 84, at the present location?
No, farther down the street, on the east side of the square, but farther north from here.
Oh, yes, and you've really progressed since then, haven't you?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, I want to point out here about, since you're an old Dentonite and the picture of Calamity Jane's opening today at the Texas Theater, I'd like to point out a little bit about Sam Bass. You knew Sam, didn't you?
Well, I just remember. I was very small and remember Sam when I was a very small boy.
He used to come through Denton. That's a picture about Denton, isn't it?
Come through? Why, this was his home, the only real home that Sam ever had.
Well, that's what I wanted to point out. I thought maybe it was, but you know, I'm not a Dentonite originally. I'm just trying to become one.
Sam's bones should be moved and buried here in Denton.
Well, you know, yesterday afternoon when we were over at the Texas Theater, see that picture yesterday morning, I should say, when they showed a special showing of Calamity Jane for the friends and neighbors of Sam Bass. we saw that Sam, as they started off the picture, there Sam was coming into Denton, and it showed Denton just all the way through, didn't it?
Yes.
You know, we also started to drive over there. We might make this announcement that you kicked in $50 to help this nationwide drive along to have the bones of Sam Bass moved here to Denton, which I think should be too, don't you?
Yes, I think so.
Well,
Interesting. Okay, so these were the first 2 minutes. Now, obviously, the first thing I'm going to notice is that clearly these two gentlemen are of two very different ages, and you can tell. So the man who's doing the interview, probably I would guess in his 40s, in the 1940s, right? So this is someone who was probably born in 1900. I'm just guessing, but definitely it will have maybe not a completely different way of speaking from someone who was born in 1872, but definitely you can tell even today that there are some characteristics of our grandfathers, for instance, the way they speak, that are different to the way the youth speak right now. So basically, it's interesting because this is a time capsule that allows us not only to listen to an old accent, but in fact to listen to two old accents, just that one is older than the other. Now, clearly, some of the differences that we see might be regional. One of the characteristics I'm noticing is that the older gentleman has this way of pronouncing vowels as elongated rather than full-on diphthongs. What this means is that he doesn't say, for instance, side, but he says sad. Perhaps I haven't done it right, but you know what I mean. Now, this is still a characteristic of southern accents in the United States, whether some would be from Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Texas, all this area in the South, even all through the Bible Belt and whatnot, they still have this characteristic, right? French fries becomes French fries. So he has it. And to me, that's interesting because, remember, he was born in 1872. The man doing the interview doesn't. Now, you might think that that's perhaps because maybe since he is, running an interview on a radio podcast, whatever it was. I mean, I call it a podcast, but radio program. It's a broadcast, that's what I meant to say. Perhaps he was learning to speak a bit more of a general American, even though at that time in the 1940s it would have still been more of a transatlantic accent, but you know what I mean. But then again, one thing I noticed is at the very beginning, he is speaking very informally. He says, don't ya? And he also, that rather than don't you or don't you. And another thing is that I noticed that he said, in fact, we might actually check it just to confirm, but I think he said was you instead of were you. I wonder if that distinction wasn't as marked as it is today. I mean, there are still people that say that, but generally it's considered to be uneducated speech if you use was instead of were in the second person singular. Let me see if it's dreamed. Or
thank you and good afternoon. Today on Denton's Story, we have as our guest Mr. Will Williams, senior partner of the Williams store, located at Court Square East. Good morning, Mr. Williams. How are you? Or good afternoon, I might say.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, I'd like to ask you a few questions here this morning about yourself. You're an old Dentonite, aren't you?
Yes, yes.
Was you born here in Denton?
See, he said was you born. He didn't say were you born.
Throw a rock to where I was born.
You can throw a rock to where you was born, huh?
Where you was born, so I was correct. So there is that.
Now.
I might ask you to put in a little plug for your age there. When were you born here?
When instead of when. This is still a characteristic of some American accents to aspirate to the W. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, there is an H. But normally you would say when, but there are people that say when. And this sometimes transfers onto words such as white, which becomes white. So that's another thing he has. I wish we could hear the older guy a little more, if you know what I mean. So let's see if we can.
Well, I'd like to also say that tonight at 7:30, you'll be on the stage at the Texas Theater in person to...
Notice that he said 30 and theater. So the flapping, that's what it's called, the technical term, where the T is pronounced as a soft D, is already present on a man who is speaking in the 1940s. I think that one goes back to the early colonies, probably. I don't know if it was that old, but I'll have to look that one up. But definitely was a thing.
Tell a little bit about knowing Sam Bass and that also we'll tell a little bit about this campaign, and they'll see that fine picture, Calamity Jane, which is depicted right here around Denton, and does bring out a lot of Denton. Say, let me ask you this. You've been here a long time, longer than
You've been here a long time.
Buford and I are old, and throw in Gene Fletcher there, too, I imagine. We're all young boys, you know. What do you think the difference of Denton of the past and Denton of the future? Can you tell us a little bit about how the past...
It's all the past to us. Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating.
How old Denton used to look, where the riding stables was and things like that?
Livery stables, you mean?
Livery stables, that's right. See, I'm not very old.
There was a livery stable on every side of town.
Well, now, where did Sam Bass keep his Denton mare? And didn't he keep it over here at one of the livery stables that's now occupied by a business on the square?
No, he kept it where he worked, from Sheriff Bill Egan.
Oh, he kept it where he worked, huh?
Yeah, he worked for Sheriff Bill Egan as his boy to look after his stock and cattle about the place. And in the mornings when he left, he'd bring the mare up and hitch her to an old mulberry tree out the corner of the kitchen so that Miss Egan would have her eye on her all the time. He was afraid somebody would poison her or steal her.
Well, I'll tell you, let's don't go...
Man, the memory on the man. Am I right? He sounds quite sharp. I don't know what age he was by now. So 1972. Let's see if we can do the math. Let me see. This is a 1949, so late 40s, interview with Will Williams, July 1972 to March 1956, who was born in Denton, Texas. The interviewer is Bill George of KDNT Radio. In this conversation, Mr. Williams recalls knowing the Wild West outlaw Sam Bass, best known for his 60,000 gold heist on a Union Pacific train in 1877. He also describes how his family opened a general store on Denton's Town Square during the 1880s. Unbelievable that this guy has memories, of course, because in the 1880s he would have been a teenager. No, actually, he would have been, teenager all the way up to his 20s in 1882. Unbelievable. So anyways, if he was born in 1872 and this was recorded in 1949, he's like in his late 70s, 77 perhaps. I mean, I don't want to open the... It's late at night. Don't make me do maths. Anyways, late 70s.
Go into about that Sam Bass deal, because tonight we're going to have you on the stage of the Texas just to do that, and we want it to all be a surprise to us. Also, we'd like to ask you about the square here. Has it changed much since you were here?
Has it?
When you first came into this world?
Oh, yes. We always had the courthouse, of course. That is, this courthouse was built in 96. The one before that was built in 75. The one before that was built in 57.
Holy moly, the memory on this guy.
This is the third courthouse we have now here in Denton.
This is the third courthouse.
Yeah.
Well, there businesses around the square like there are today?
Well, all the businesses then, except livery stables, was around the square.
How many did you think they had in those days? I mean, they didn't have near the amount they have today, but about what would you say the number was then?
The square was nearly always filled up. Even in those days, with this and that and the other restaurants and little stores and one thing another. But, of course, they've been pushed out now by bigger businesses on the square.
You know what's fascinating? That we can understand him. He's like, no problem. He sounds old and old school at the same time. But then again, considering he was born in 1872 and we are in 2026, yeah, we could easily, if he were alive today, we could have a conversation. Well, unless you start using Gen Z or Gen Alpha, like streamer talk, then, I mean, I can't understand that. So I could sympathize with him.
But the square has nearly always been fairly well filled.
You say they've been pushed out by bigger businesses. You mean like the Williams store? Throw in another plug for you there. Well, now, when did you originally open your first Williams store here in Denton?
July 84. The store was opened to C.A. Williams. That was my father.
That was your father. Well, you might tell us a little bit about your family history, and we might point out right here, and I'd like to pay you a personal compliment, if you'll take it as such, that I think a man of your age has a marvelous memory.
See, I agree. I agree with the radio guy. Absolutely. Maybe it's what they ate. I don't know. We ate chemicals now. Who knows? This guy's sharp. There is something about the intonation that it's endearing to me. Both of them, in fact. I noticed that the old man, Miss Williams, is it? He has one thing that he does where he seems to start his sentences with this, well, a little bit of a rising tone there, and then proceeds to. I've heard quite a few people in Tennessee that do the same. So I think this one stayed. I imagine people in Texas do it as well.
Can remember these dates, and believe you me, this is strictly an informal interview today, friends, and he has no notes whatsoever and doesn't know what question's coming next. And I want to really pay you that compliment. I think it is grand to have a memory like that.
I think it is grand to have a memory like that. That is definitely... He's clearly American, but it is transatlantic still. A little bit.
Well, we always had a courthouse square up here, fenced in around the courthouse, but it was smaller than it is now, just with posts and a chain around to hitch to. We later moved the courthouse square over to the county line, and moved all horses and wagons off the square down to what is now known as the market square. That market square was given to the farmers of Denton County by my father, C.A. Williams.
Well, now, would you tell us just a little bit more about Mr. C.A. Williams? He seems to be a pretty big man here in Denton also. Did he ever hold any office in the public life, or did he ever have anything unusual that you might elaborate on for us?
He was sheriff twice. First in 56 he was elected sheriff, and then when he come back from the war, he was elected again. But when he was elected the second time, carpetbagger, Governor Davis wouldn't let him serve.
Why is that?
Because he didn't like
We're getting a little bit of political drama of the period.
They didn't like his pledge to the federal government.
You mean his platform to the federal government?
No, he thought it wasn't proper, so he threw him out of office.
Well, I'll be doggone. That's
So then a federal ex-captain from Kansas come over and took his place and was collect the taxes, tax assessor, tax collector, and sheriff.
Always taxes, am I right? We're going to go back to frigging Acadian. Sumerians. There's going to be taxes.
It was all the same office in those days. And he started out collecting taxes, and my father said he's the best collector he ever saw, that he almost took blood from the people to collect the taxes. When he'd collected all the taxes he thought he could, he put the money in the saddlebags and rode off to Kansas.
That's really pointing out Denton of the past for us today, Mr. Williams.
So then Governor Davis sent a requisition up here and asked my father to serve out his time, which was about 3 or 4 months. And he served out the other end of the time under Carpetbagger Davis's appointment.
Well, now, he never was sheriff while Sam Bass was living here, was he?
No, he was in business when Sam was in business,
Oh, he was in business here then?
He was in business several times before he was with the Williams store. He used to be in business with...
Interesting how he dropped the eroticism at the very end of there when he said store.
A man by the name of Stroud. Then he was in business with Judge Scruggs. Before that, then he was in business with himself, before that he was in business in 84. So he sold...
See, 84.
Sam goods and charged them to him, and Sam always paid, too.
Well, I understand that Sam was one that always paid his bills, but as I say once again, we're going to point that out at 7:30 tonight when we make a broadcast from the stage of the Texas Theater, with you to appear with us in person. Let me ask you this. You've seen Denton of the past, and you're seeing it right now in the present. What do you think that the people of Denton could do to improve this fine little city for the Denton of the future, Mr. Williams? That's kind of putting you on a spot, but, I mean, some of the things like...
Putting on a spot, already a thing, as an expression. Interesting. I wonder how old he is, but the older man is understanding it perfectly clearly, so maybe it was something they were using in the 1800s as well.
Making a two-way square out of this, which was just recently changed, we understand, to a one-way square. Do you think they ought to take the parking meters off, or do you think that they ought to remodernize all the stores around the square? Just what do you think that we could do to improve our city?
I think, well, as the parking meters, I think that is fine.
You think that's fine? Does that seem to hinder your business or hurt it in any way for people?
It helps our business.
It helps the business, not to have the free parking, but to have the parking meter. Well, that's one thing we'd like to point out. We're talking with Mr. Ball over here the other day, and he seems to think that the parking meters kind of stop the people from parking, and they don't trade as much here as they used to.
We like it better.
To think the parking meters was like these these modern devilish inventions. Am I right? Anyways, this was fascinating. I usually don't react to the entire thing. So if you want to finish the story, please check out the link in the description and pinned comment to also give him a like. And for putting the video together and adding the pictures, I really appreciated that. But for today, thank you very much for watching. This was fascinating. We should bring back the transatlantic accent. Thank you.